So, why is it that Diddy specifically targeted young boys? Why all of a sudden has this trend appeared of these TikTok OnlyFans girlies targeting barely legal young men? Talking about how they're going to go and pick them up, talking about how they like them barely legal, all this stuff. What is it, this attack on the young man? And even in schools, because obviously I teach and I've noticed a trend when it comes to young boys. And one thing that doesn't get spoken about enough that I would like to just enter into the chat right now is female predators. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again, that I believe that the devil does his best work through women, because we are unsuspected. We are the ones who people are not going to suspect we did anything or trust us as nurturers and whatever, as we're supposed to be. And so, I think that there is a huge underlying thing that the devil has going on in terms of violating young men, right? Because he knows they're not going to speak up about it, more than likely. And I can definitely say that as a woman, as much as we say this, we've been very delusional in thinking we've created any type of safe space anyways. And anyways, men are less likely to talk about stuff in a way they internalize everything. That's why men a lot of time pass away from heart-related issues, in my opinion. That's my hypothesis. Because of the storing up of everything inside the heart, So I want to talk about this on a number of levels, okay? Because I don't believe that this is by accident, and I do believe, and I'm going to go straight to the jugular of saying that I believe that this is an attack on masculinity. I believe this is an attack on masculinity, and I believe it's an attack on manhood and an attack on testosterone production. No, the testosterone production actually true, because anyway, we won't get into the science of how, doing certain things as men and women, it actually does strengthen us as men and women separately, yada, yada, yada. Hence why I've started crying these days so that I can, get into my feminine, hate it. Very, very much hate it. Hate crying, hate it. But anyway, so let's talk about this, because I think that, one thing that we have to recognize in society, and we have to realize about this game of life, as I like to say, is that a lot of times your enemy, or the devil, let's just go straight to the devil. The devil is always doing things that are going on, that are getting done like below the surface, so nobody really realizes that it's happening, but then it's also overwhelmingly obvious that this is happening. Because I started to think about this. I was thinking about this today. I've been thinking about a lot of things to do with this and just men and women and this, that, and the other, because of some experiences that I had this weekend, and I was thinking that I think that the fact that there's been such a rise in the femininity of men is obviously not by accident. And it's not just because we haven't lived in a war and whatever. There's something a little bit more deep and sinister, because here's the thing about being a predator and predators and whatever. And let's just say not even just predators, like just sex as a whole is a form of transfer, okay? This is what I don't think people realize. So when you engage in any type of sexual intercourse, hence, by the way, why I say that I don't, anyway, whatever. So when the reason why a lot of the devil uses predators, right? There's a very specific reason why. It's to transfer something. Without consent, right? And if we're going to be completely honest, as men and women today, when it comes to these types of crimes against boys versus these types of crimes against girls, unfortunately, and this is something I have to say, I know very well in my position as a teacher, as a woman, right? That to a lot of young boys, they would love, I've heard stories of what young guys say, and I've seen how young guys behave, you know what I mean? In terms of how they interact with female adults, particularly female adults that they think are attractive, you know what I'm saying? And like even myself, it's actually so ironic that, you know, because I am also young looking, a lot of these younger guys, sometimes they actually think like I have to have such, the way I have to conduct myself, like even as a teacher, is very like specific, because those boundaries and those levels, it's our responsibility as adults to be careful. And I feel like there's a lot more protection that goes on when it comes to males and older males or men or women, because men and women can both be, you know, approached by either, when it comes to the protection of, like, you know, young girls versus young boys, right? And so I'm very much aware of that. Especially having worked in schools and stuff and just seeing the dynamics. I'm aware that there's a lot of really weird women, okay, as well, who have these weird like relationships, because of their weird relationship, their weird male issues they have with themselves. They then display those weird behaviors then with these young boys. So like a lot of these girls, I think the reason they're enjoying promoting themselves to these barely legal boys, right? For them internally, this is what I'm saying, this is what I'm saying, the world is so messed up. But anyway, they're enjoying getting attention in the masses and being like worshipped in a way that obviously they're not going to get in society, because of course they obviously have fans and whatnot, otherwise they wouldn't be making they're making their cash money. But they are not seen and worshipped in any type of way as any type of, oh my gosh, this is the most desirable thing ever. So where would they go if they wanted to get something like that? Of course, the young teenage boys, right? When it comes to the adults, the Diddys and whatever's, right? What's the best way we can ruin society? Well, one of the best ways. How about this? You see the home where they're supposed to be strong masculine men, let's make sure the men are no longer masculine. Let's try and ruin that in whatever way we can, whether it's putting them through things so that they've got such deep issues that they cannot operate in the way that they're supposed to operate, whether it's putting in some weird, because I believe everybody needs deliverance. I think if you've been through any type of really anything in this, I think we all need deliverance. I don't believe there's a person on the earth right now who doesn't need some form of deliverance. I just want to say that, because I don't want people to think that I'm pinpointing. It's just maybe different people need deliverance for different types of things. Some people need deliverance from a spirit of poverty. Some people need a deliverance from delusion. I've realized that there's actually a spirit of delusion in the female community, because there's some things I see even in the male community, but I notice it more amongst young women. I'm like, there's actual genuine delusion happening, like actual full blown delulu. But anyway, so you know, all of this is being done on purpose so that you can continue. Because people, like, one thing that no one's talking enough about is the fact that Diddy was diddied by the Diddy that Diddy was diddied, and the Diddy that Diddy was also diddied. And that's why Diddy now diddied, so that hopefully he can create more Diddies. We're following. Not just that, these kinds of demons work in groups, you guys. Look, I just have to say it all for what it is, okay? I have to say it. Because this is one of those topics that I feel like has really gone under the radar, because the men are obviously not going to speak up about it. You know, although I have actually, praise be the name of Jesus, that, you know, any men wouldn't trust me. But I've actually had multiple guys who've come out to me about these types of predatory behaviors that have happened to them. Like, some were unfortunately through the churches, others were actually in school. So I thank the Lord that anybody wouldn't trust me to share that information. That's why I started to really think about this whole concept, and also this whole baby reindeer story. That's why I was so happy about it, and I was so happy with how he produced the story and how he explained what happened, because it again goes along with what I'm saying, right? Because demons work in groups, right? So what they do is they're like, certain ones work really well together. So for example, let me give you two who the fun duo of the 21st century: anxiety and depression, bestie buddies. They work really well together. They work very, very well together. And therefore, you know, whenever they can be there, you're probably going to have a bit of both, right? Working together, and they both make it harder for you to get rid of the other, right? You'll be so anxious to get help for your depression, but you'll be so depressed because of how anxious you are. And you know what I mean? And it just works hand in hand. So they work in groups, they work in teams. This is why I said the kingdom of heaven needs to get our act together, and we need to start grouping up, and we need to start forming teams and going against these same teams with the kingdom of darkness, right? So when you have like a predatorial demon, right, you might have the demon of, I don't know, maybe the demon of pride will work alongside with the demon of I definitely believe this. This is all, it all makes sense if you actually think about it, right? The demon of pride will work along with like the demon of what's that word? What's the word? The spirit of, oh my gosh, it's like the word for spirit of, it's not degeneracy, but it's kind of like perversion. Spirit of perversion will work alongside this. The spirit of pride will work with the spirit of perversion, will work with the spirit of rejection, will work with, and they'll all come together, right? So then whatever individual in question who is, you know, violated, they could, the symptoms, you see how we call them symptoms? I don't believe in the symptoms of just be, I think symptoms is the right word, but I think the symptoms of what is where we've lost it. So the symptoms can be different for different people, right? Because different people will express it in different ways. So maybe in one person, you end up with, it's the demon of pride that ends up becoming the predominant demon. What's the name for the demon? Like I really need to do my recapping. So all this information. So in one person who's been, say, violated, they become the type of man who just enjoys exerting all of this authority over people, very prideful, takes pride in everything that about himself, whatever, treats people poorly, the type of, jobs worth, like, I'm going to take advantage of my place of authority. I'm going to treat you however I want to treat you because that's what I do, because this is who I am, and da-da-da-da-da. But that pride could also point itself out in the other versions of pride. Should we talk about that and the other types of pride? So, I want to take pride in the fact that, because I just want to say, like, I just want to say this, and I'm trying to be so respectful because I really want people to be delivered, and I do not want to be people to just be annoyed or whatever, right? I do really believe that a lot of the issues with the men of today mutilating themselves, wanting to, engage in the way that they are, is a result of this stuff, right? And that's something that overwhelmingly was shown through Richard Gadd, because after he went through what he went through with that dude, what was the next thing that happened? It was almost like a bit of a, I want to be with a man, but I want to be with a woman. I want to be with a woman, but I can't be with a woman, so I'm going to be with a woman that used to be a man. And somehow I feel like in his mind, and I feel like in a lot of people's minds, it kind of does enough. It's the compromise, right? It does enough. Like, this is a woman, this is 2024, and that this is normal now. We don't mind that now. That's okay. They've changed their gender. No, there's some underlying issues. I'm not saying it has to be because of being, violated in any type of way, but I'm saying something came from somewhere. Even the individuals themselves doing those types of things, not being sure of what you are, who you are. Because again, we as people, we're supposed to be, as children, as young people, we're supposed to be protected, and we're supposed to be trained, and we're supposed to have certain boundaries put around us, and people are supposed to look after us in a way that's appropriate for who we are to be able to become. When we don't have those things, which I can tell you we don't because I work in education, and we don't have those things, it ends up pushing us down the wrong pathway, right? In some way, shape, or form. Hence, even the word sin, which means chet in Hebrew, it means to miss the path, to lose focus, to veer off the right path. So we then end up being the ones who now do certain types of behaviors, or end up compensating. That's the best word I can use, compensating in some way, shape, or form or the other, right? You could deal with rejection. Now, the funny thing with the spirit of rejection is the spirit of rejection, obviously, you're always expecting to be rejected. But then and the funny thing about the spirit of rejection that I've learned, that demon in particular, the funny thing about that demon is that the spirit of rejection, when it's there, will actually cause the rejection to happen because of its presence, not because the rejection would have happened anyway. This is why I believe in deliverance. So a lot of people right now, and especially men, again, hello, let's talk about it, because we've got issues with the rejection situation going on. Right? And a whole bunch of things. I think there's a whole bunch of issues that are affecting men out there that we're not talking about. I'll give you another one. This whole single mother thing and just bringing random men into the house. Not good for young men. I've realized now. because of, again, my experiences working with young people and talking to young people and seeing how it affects young men, how they think and how they develop and everything, having different random men in the house that are not their own father in particular. Now, to the mother, that might not seem that big of a deal. That's because we become even more selfish than we already were in the garden. Right? And so you might not think it's that big of a deal, right, to be bringing, you know, somebody around, a man who you're talking to or whatever, around your son or in the house. But I've been hearing horror stories now. Like, I've been hearing stories and I've been thinking about what, like, because me as a scientist, me as a logical thinker, I'm thinking, what did that actually do to your brain in those situations? And again, because men are men and they don't talk about things, they internalize once. Also, listen, we're the ones who haven't really created the environment, let's be real, either, or the anything, right? This isn't good for them. I believe there's such a strong attack because honestly right now, if the men were to stand up, as well as obviously the women need to stand up, right? We're standing up, but hey, I'm standing up. I'm standing up. I'm standing strong and I'm standing. Okay. And I'm doing my best. But if, and yeah, and it's a difficult process. So I get it. I get why people don't want to go through the due process of dealing and healing and delivering and all of that. Cause it's not fun. It's horrible. This has been the worst year of my life. Like emotionally, like it's just been absolute horrific. You know what I mean? But it's part of the process because of the things that had happened. And otherwise I was going to turn into God knows what. You know what I mean? And I was going to compromise in one way, shape or form or another. And, you know, and that's the Lord actually convicted me about this time last year. It was about compromise. He was like, are you compromising? How are you going to call your channel the winning team? And you're telling me that you don't want to have children. You're telling me that this, you're telling me that this. So you're really going to let all these things affect you. So you're really going to be a loser. And I was like, so that's why I had to start, you know, allow the process of like, you know what? I don't want to do it. I've got a lot of issues to address. I don't want to address them. I've been crying on YouTube. You know what I mean? It's cringe. Actually, I don't think it's cringe. It's very therapeutic. I like it. I like it because I want to encourage others. I hope that like when people are watching my videos, I want them to, I share all the stuff, a lot of stuff that I'm going through because I want people to, because if I am going to call my channel the winning team, then I got to show that we can really win, you know, back to what I was saying. So yeah, so there's all these little issues and little things that I've noticed that are affecting young boys and young kids. And at a surface level, the surface level type of stuff, right? It's, you know, like it's like breaking their spirits. So like an example of that I see in school that people don't talk enough about is you have these teachers sometimes, and it could be male or female teachers, with young men who are usually the ones who are like, if they're charismatic, if they're funny and they're intelligent, a lot of teachers actually act quite jealous, I've noticed, and they do penalize them worse on purpose, and they do single them out on purpose because they're not happy to see them win. They're not happy to see them be able to be charismatic, funny and intelligent altogether. You know, and like even some of the comments that like some young men make in class, they make a lot of smart comments. I'm like, we should be encouraging their critical thinking when they're making critical thinking thoughts and whatever. We should be redirecting that energy, you know what I'm saying, and not villainizing them for, you know, having a bit of a smart comment, but being like, okay, big shot. Like, let's see then, like, you know, let's redirect that and let's encourage that and let's strengthen that and build up their spirit. Because a lot of those young men are probably some of the young men that if we had done our job in the education system and were supporting them the way that they deserved, would be more of some of these men that the world needs today. But instead we break their spirits and they just get in trouble, and then they end up in prison, and then they end up on doing whatever, and then they end up doing whatever, you know what I'm saying? They end up dead. You wonder why we have so many of these issues with these young men in these gangs. Some of the most intelligent men are in gangs right now because there isn't a facility in society that actually supports that. Because even like as a woman, my problem with the catch-20, my problem with this whole situation is you have the men you have like two types of men. You have like the men who would, like, you know, violate a woman or whatever, and then you have the men that would kill them. But what happens in society? Which side does society favor? The violating ones. Because the ones, if they kill them, it doesn't matter if they kill them or they beat them up or they do whatever, they deal with them in whatever way that they deal with them, because they're actually trying to protect society. they now end up in prison when the system can't even do the job itself. And so now the person who's the thing, do you see what I'm saying? So it just feels like there's just such an attack, and like I'm really like now understanding it in a more global sense. And I don't know what there's going to be able to be done, you guys. Like all I can say to the men out there is to just, you need to find Jesus. We need, I don't know, like listen to Marcus Rogers, actually. That's what you should do, because he's a real man. to be completely honest with you, and we need more of that and more of spaces where these things are being dealt with, because otherwise it's going to continue, right? So that's at the surface level, right, of the attack on the men. But then on the demonic level, yeah, the devil, that's basically just him farming, you know, the next batch of problematic individuals, farming Diddys, making the next Diddys of tomorrow. Right, the next predators of tomorrow, or whatever. Like that's why all of these guys. Why do you think they're all doing this stuff? Like all these men are doing all this stuff together in Hollywood and all these things. Why do you think they're all doing it? It's humiliating, and also it's for them. It's to destroy within them who God created for them to be. Right. The more that they engage in doing all this stuff together. That's the point. That's why they do it. That's why they're all, you know, like whatever. Like I was saying, people keep saying about, oh, 50 Cent said this, said that. Yeah, maybe 50 Cent didn't. I mean, I don't know if he was involved with anything to do with underage boys, but what I have heard things of was him and other rappers, and why certain beef was happening, and got nothing to do with ain't no women, but it definitely had something to do with relationships, romantic ones, or at least sexual ones. So, you know, like, I'm just saying that we have to really, like, as a society, open up our eyes, and also as women, and we need to stop assuming that women are just because we're women that we won't do these things. We really need to stop. I've been a victim of a woman myself. Listen, in this category area. This is why I feel like the Lord has allowed me to be through everything I've been through, because I'm like, oh, what's your trauma? Oh, been there. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so that's something else that we need to address as well, that women can be predators too. Women can absolutely be predators to both to women and to men as well, right? And we have to be aware of that, and we have to look out for those types of women as other women, and we need to make sure we deal with them. Because already the odds that these men are going to speak up or do anything about it after the fact are so slim. And again, we're the ones who are in spaces like, you know, little things that I know it's little things that women do that I think is inappropriate. I think if you've got somebody else's child and it's not your child, why are you kissing that child on the lips? Heck, why are you kissing that child in the first place? You know what I mean? All the little call me when you get olders and all of this. What are you doing? We need to, as women, also need to be pulling up this type of behavior in amongst our own communities. These little things. Noticing, you know, a particular woman who's hanging around with younger guys all the time, like really super younger. Why? What's going on there? Yeah, because it's becoming a serious issue. And when I discovered the thing I discovered today about this barely legal thing on TikTok, I was like... And the thing that's crazy to me about a lot of this stuff is that even if people are being cancelled, even if people don't like it, the fact is these things are happening online, and they're still happening because there's enough people allowing it to take place. Like I said, everything that we talk about, everything that goes down, the only reason anything in the world is happening is because somebody's allowing it for it to happen. So at a certain point, we have to become the people that are the doers of preventing these things from happening. That's all I'm trying to say here. You know what I mean? And we have to be aware that there's a serious attack going on here. It's a serious attack. The thing that really made me think the most about this was when I was thinking, why is it is true that it is overwhelmingly more that there are men becoming women than women becoming men. You know, the other day I thought for a social experiment I would dress up as a drag king. Because when do you ever hear of a drag king? For example. And there's an underlying thing that it was made clear to me just simply, but based on all this stuff that's happening, is that it's easier in general, I find, to be a woman, to be honest, in a lot of ways. It's comfortable to talk about your things. You know, like how there's this whole thing about the girls, the gays, and the theys. One thing I noticed is a lot of the guys who are involved in that, I think they really enjoy that kind of community, because they really get to get everything off their chest, and they really accepted in a safe space, and they really are invited to all the things that the women are doing. So they've got the things that a lot of other men don't have, like, you know, people to talk to, companionship, all of this. I didn't realize that loneliness was such a big thing to some people, because personally I really like my own space, and I really, really like it. Like, I don't feel lonely. I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I wish I had like so many people to spend time with. I really don't. You know, I'm quite happy by myself. So it's kind of new to me that companionship and having somebody around is such a big deal in some people's minds, particularly in the male community. I've so come to realize. And I mean, the Bible does say it's not good for man to be alone, you know? So I think that's something I should stew on more today, but now that I've just mentioned it in the light of this. But anyways, you guys, you hear what I'm saying. So let's be aware. Like, I think there's a big issue going on here, and I'm not a man. I'm not qualified to speak on any of this, but I want to say something, because I feel for the male community. I really do. Like, genuinely, I do. Genuinely, I feel that we, in our job role as women, as to how our job role is towards the men, we're really failing them in so many areas, like of stuff like this, with all different things, you know. And then I also think, you know, the men who do have the strength and who do have whatever they need to speak up more also on behalf of your folks, because they need it, you know. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to leave that there on a rather like low note. But, you know, it's a sad thing, and it's hard for me to think and or talk about, because I just know, like, every time I think about it, I just feel like it's like that dark, it's almost like a dark shadow that, like, everybody, that we're all experiencing the result of. We're all experiencing the result of what's happening, but then, like, it's almost like that dark shadow. We can feel the darkness, but we can't see. We can feel the dark cloud, sorry. We can feel the darkness, but we can't see the cloud, kind of thing. And it's really sad, I think. And also, like I said, from my job, I have to say that I say that girls are significantly better off educationally. It doesn't surprise me, some of the statistics around who does well in school and stuff. We are significantly better off in school. Like, in terms of just things that are working for or against you, regardless of your level of intelligence or application, we are significantly advantaged as girls, for sure. And I now say that from a teaching perspective, having observed other teachers that I work with, working with the same kids that they work with, hearing what they have to say about those kids, observing how they behave, you know, and stuff. I'm like, the system is not set up in the best way possible. You know, because even some of these young men that I meet, I'm like, they don't need to be in school. They need to be just like doing whatever job it is, whatever task that it is that they want to do. Maybe they're an athlete. Just go and let them train, for goodness sake. They're going to be the next Olympian, or I don't know. They're building stuff. Just go and let them start learning how to build some stuff. Like, just let. Do you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Other than the basic education, you guys, the basic education that we need could be done in like so quickly. So much school time is wasted, and then, you know, anyway, so we'll leave that there, because I'm really tired, mainly because I've been talking for so long today. But anyways, you guys, if life's a game, let's play to win. Please let me know you guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. God bless you all. God loves you. I love you, and I'll see you in my next one.